All right. YouTube says that we are live. So I'll just start by saying, hi, everyone. I'm #1 Marmaduke fan. And today I am joined by Nerd Wonder. Oop, so I hear an echo. Sorry. All right. And I'm joined by Nerd Wonder and John Malin. John Malin is a professional comic book artist. He's worked on Cable, he's worked on Youngblood, and he has his own Indiegogo campaign for Graveyard Shift. And Nerd Wonder will be doing a ashcan edition as a bonus for Graveyard Shift. So, John Malin, Nerd Wonder, you want to say hi?
Hi.
Hello.
How's it going, guys?
I've included a link in the description below to the Indiegogo campaign. You should definitely support Graveyard Shift. And if you want Nerd Wonder's ashcan edition, which he's actually working on now, live on air, you should support it at the $50 tier, at least, to get the the exclusive ashcan. So we're going to let Nerd Wonder draw for us while we chat. And John, I thought I'd start with you, since this is kind of your baby. So for people who aren't familiar with what Graveyard Shift is yet, you co-created this property with Mark Polton. So why don't you just tell us, for people who have not even heard about this project yet, what is Graveyard Shift, John?
Graveyard Shift is what if the Universal monsters were the X-Men? So we have stand-ins for Dracula, Frankenstein's monster, and the Bride of Frankenstein. That's essentially our they're only inspired by these characters, but our leader of our team is actually infused with DNA from the actual Dracula, and the other two are just regenerated after being murdered. So they were all murdered and working on regenerative medicines for a corporation that one side of the ownership wanted to use for military exploitation. And basically the sales pitch for the bad guy to different countries is, if you use our technology and if you are on the losing side of a battle, that you will be able to regenerate your dead soldiers within hours. And even if you are on the losing side, you will have the battlefield advantage within hours. So it's a real tempting technology if you're into war. So, but anyways, so these scientists were working on regenerative medicines, and they're ultimately murdered and put into their own experiments. And now they're trying to stop the Atlantis Corporation from taking over the world.
And something I like based on it for it is, you've got like the mashup of the Universal monsters and X-Men, which are, two interesting properties to mash up. And you have this nice dramatic irony to it, I think, where Vladimir Blood and Lilith Mayhew, they're the scientists. Mick Mayhew is Lilith's husband, and they end up betrayed, and they'll end up hoisted on their own petard. Now, I don't think this is a spoiler because it's in the Indiegogo description, but tell us a little bit about, cause what's interesting to me is that's sort of a twist, right? Where, these characters are doing one thing, and then, they end up screwed by the corporation they're working for. So it's not just X-Men. You're also, you've got your own characters, and you've got, some drama and intrigue happening to your own characters. So what can you tell people about that without spoiling too much?
Let's see. Yeah, I mean, we're going off of the, the classic superhero trope and the classic sci-fi trope of, it's the experiment gone bad. The quest for super science. So, Captain America was a science experiment. Spider-Man was a science experiment. And, if you go back to even the 80s with the remake of The Fly, Jeff Goldblum was working on teleportation and ended up merging his, I might have been the DNA, whatever, of a fly, in his experiment. So, I mean, this is where kind of like the really good stuff comes from. So, we use that as kind of our launching point for all the ideas that come afterwards. You got to have that good origin So that's what kind of inspired that. And I think it still works. So we just put it front and center. And yeah, and I can't really go into too much details other than, I don't want to just give away every little plot point of what happens in these moments. But yeah, the idea was that we would hit on the entire story is like, it's all homages. So even, the origin is an homage to sci-fi and horror and superheroes. And the characters are homages to the Universal monsters, to the X-Men. We have a giant spaceship that they actually reside in, and in the book it's dubbed Castle Dracula. And this Castle Dracula is also ran by a holographic AI, and so that's our stand-in for a haunted castle. So we take all these different tropes, from the science gone awry to the haunted castle. We even have it stand in for the creature from the Black Lagoon, who is essentially our Aquaman. And I think Nerd Wonder has that character in this chibi form of the ashcan.
I do. Let me see if I can pull it up. I did a quick rough sketch of him. I do them on physical so I can go back and forth while drawing, because I like to have a physical right next to me so I could just turn over and not need to swap layers. Kitty, get off my papers.
I was definitely excited when I saw that you were going to have your Nerd Wonder doing the ashcan on this, because now I get to support two artists I like. So John or Nerd, either of you could hop in here. What was the origin story of you two working together?
Because I guess it has to come from my angle. I'll jump on this first. Mark and I were looking to do an ashcan. We were looking at 16 pages, and I had met Nerd Wonder down in Bell County Comic-Con about a month ago. But I was already familiar with her work, because every time she goes on a live stream, she's always drawing. And you can tell right away that she's really good with all her gestures, and she draws these very cutesy characters. So when we were deciding on the ashcan, we wanted to go one of two ways. One with, a style that's much more in kind of the vein of what I'm doing, or a complete 180 direction, which is kind of the Nerd Wonder can probably describe it better than me. But I would just describe it as kind of this chibi type manga style, where everything is smaller, cutesy, kid versions like Teen Titans Go. And ultimately we decided that it might be best to have something that would be, it's kid friendly, whereas Graveyard Shift, the main book is for, teens or above. But the ashcan is something that you could hand off to a little kid, and it'll be nice and cute and fun.
Yeah.
Nothing serious is going to be happening in it, of any, anything to be concerned about.
No heads getting ripped off and bullets burning out, pretty much.
Yeah. So it complements. It complements the package, I think, and gives people a way of looking at something a little bit different.
Yeah.
So
what I love about that from an artistic perspective is you almost instantly start thinking about the characters as they'd exist in different universes or under the hand of different artists. So it's almost kind of like the character takes on a different life when they are depicted in such a different style.
Oh, absolutely. Nerd Wonder is fantastic with giving life and cuteness to all these characters. I mean, her gestures are fantastic. And, a lot of my faces are it's the gritted teeth and the scowl, and hers are completely different than mine. And so to me, it's just a better full package instead of just looking at more gritted teeth or scowling type faces. This is a complete 180.
So earlier we saw Nerd Wonder drawing in red on top of the pencil sketches. And I understand that you provided those pencil sketches, John Malin. So for young artists who are kind of interested in working with, an older artist who's been in the industry, I like that we're getting to see an opportunity for the two of you working together and to see Nerd Wonder literally working from your thumbnails. So tell us a little bit about how quickly do you produce the thumbnails, John, and what's the back and forth like between you two as Nerd Wonder is working on the finished inks?
Well, the thumbnails went really quick for me because my intent is to let Nerd Wonder find her opportunities in here and do whatever she wants to do in the end. I laid out 16 pages in one day. And yeah, I mean, these are simple shots. They're not the most out there. And I'm trusting her that she will make sure these guys have the cute gestures and the cute faces. And I mean, it looks fantastic. Even that arm looks fantastic. I love it. So, but that's why she's here. Oh, and also she's also been a supporter of, I don't know how well your community is aware of, the ComicsGate stuff. I imagine pretty decently, but
I think that's most of my audience is kind of trickle down from our boy Zach. So, but yeah, you could tell, just in case people don't know what it is, you feel free to like give them. Yeah,
let me just finish with this little bit, and then Nerd Wonder, I'm sure can add something. But Nerd Wonder has been a supporter of the ComicsGate community. She's been involved with everything, and I really wanted to be able to bring somebody from the ComicsGate community in to work on these projects. So when you back Graveyard Shift, you're not just backing the book, you're not just getting like a signature on a book, like collector's item type deal, but you're also helping someone within the community, in this case, Nerd Wonder, get an opportunity to be paid to make comics. And so if Graveyard Shift does well, and then and it's already done well, but if it does more than like, if we get close to like the 100,000 range, then we're going to, Mark and I, the co-creator, we're going to take a percentage of that money and we're going to dump it into the next one to hire another person from the ComicsGate community to draw another book. And we'll probably, if Nerd Wonder is available and willing, we'll probably have Nerd Wonder come on and do another ashcan. And
I think that's really dope because you're finding talent in the community, and if Graveyard Shift is successful enough, maybe there'll be a sequel. And now it's sort of like Nerd Wonder is adding a different aspect to the brand to it. So if you're presenting sort of like the raw, edgy, action adventure side of the brand, Nerd Wonder is adding an adorable, family friendly aspect to the brand. So I'd really hope to see her return and continue different aspects of the universe of Graveyard Shift.
Oh, absolutely. I love this. And I just want to present a really good product. That's all.
Yeah. And a little bit of credit to Mark Poulton too. He's really great at like the cutesy stuff. He's written children's books. One is A Cat Named Haiku. Another is one that he wrote with his I think 8 or 9-year-old son called Pizza Tree. So he's able to bring in these little cute little lines probably effortlessly.
Definitely. And people can follow Mark Poulton and his son on Twitter. He just goes by Coney Waves on Twitter. So I like just the variety in the creative team that we've got you, John, coming out of Marvel Comics. We've got Mark, who's written. We've got Nerd Wonder. It's not just like a single person we're helping out. It's a bunch of creative people. John, so Nerd Wonder, John's talked a little bit about how he discovered you and he watched you drawing. Could you tell us whatever John's comfortable with us sharing? Could you tell us a little bit about what it's like to like send him work, hear from him about what you're working on? Because you're kind of the younger artist of the two. So for younger artists who are kind of interested in making their way into comics, what's this learning experience been like for you?
I'm honestly like amazed. Like it's still very surreal and it is very like I gotta get on this, I gotta be faster, I gotta be quicker on this stuff because I want to give it my all and actually deliver a product that people will really adore and like. And it's an honor to be working with Malin. Like, oh my gosh. Sorry. It's crazy for me, but yeah, it just proves we can all do it, guys. Like never be afraid to show your work and so forth, and be I guess, just good people, because we have so many good creative people in the community that we will all benefit from. Like, it's just, ow, I'm sorry, it's still an amazing thing for me. So it's a lot of, I gotta work hard, and yeah, I do, and I guess people know this, like, I will panic really easily when it comes to stuff like that. So it's a lot of me eternally.
Oh, sorry, I think the last little bit of that cut out, Nerd Wonder.
Oh no, I'm sorry. It's a lot of me eternally screaming and just trying to make the best of my work. And Malin is amazing. When I was showing him the cover page art, he went through and he gave me some amazing pointers that have completely changed how I'm able to ink and draw, and gave me more confidence in my inking skills. Like, now I can ink. I'm like, oh my god, everything fits so well now. I don't know. It's just phenomenal.
Fantastic. John, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, any changes I've had to do with Nerd Wonder, they're minimal, and you know, she really gets the drawing, and yeah, I mean, really, I mean, we had a conversation on line weight, and that was about it. And then I saw a glimpse of what she did for the fixes, and she nailed it 100%. So she's listening, she's applying, and that's all important stuff, you know, to have a good relationship with people, is know that, you know, you're teaching somebody an approach on something, and you can trust that as they keep turning it around, that they've learned it and now they continue to execute it. And but I would like to say, we just passed 40,000 on our.
John, I think your mic might be cutting out a little bit. Could you repeat that last bit, John?
Oh, I was saying that we just passed 40,000 on our campaign, and the stretch goal was for a trading card in every package. So, are you hearing me okay?
Yep, I'm hearing you now.
Okay. So, anyways, I'm just going to go ahead and announce the next stretch goal, because I haven't updated yet. I was doing a live stream right before. I've just been really busy today. But the next stretch goal is $50,000 raised. And that is going to give Nerd Wonder a bonus, and that is going to give the person who did the music for our trailer a bonus. So for every 50,000 raised from here on out, so at the 100,000, the 150,000, Nerd Wonder will keep getting bonuses. So the more support that happens, then the more money she's going to make. And I think this bonus might make her, if you compare what people at Image Comics are making per project, she is probably making more than 90% of the people at Image Comics at our 50,000 bonus.
I'm really glad to hear that. And I and a lot of others in the community are thinking about, you know, either drawing our own books or writing our own books. And I think that for the people who've done their own Indiegogo campaigns, a lot of people are going to really be interested to hear, you know, what are some of the practical problems? How do I make sure, if they hire an artist or if they hire a colorist, they're going to want to know how can I make sure they're getting paid well enough? And I really think it's a good idea to have the success of the campaign tied with the success of other creative people who are working on the project. Because I think maybe an important thing we're trying to do is help artists and colorists and letterers find opportunities outside of the industry, working on on independent projects. So I'm really happy to hear that, and that definitely adds a bonus for people to go support Graveyard Shift, and check the link in the description to support it. John, maybe as a little bit of it, so we've talked about line weight and drawing style a little bit. So maybe to shift focus a little bit to the regular book, the graphic novel that you're working on for Graveyard Shift. You've talked a lot about the influence of Rob Liefeld and others on your drawing style. So I want to ask you a question that comes a bit from my perspective. But when I was a young person, I did not like Rob Liefeld, even before it kind of became a meme to dump on him. And Diversity in Comics and
what young person though? I mean, were you young in the 90s, the 80s?
I was young in the 90s, and I did like Eric Larson and Eric Larson and Todd McFarlane. But even when I was young, nothing. Rob Liefeld didn't click for me originally, but I never dumped on him like the way a lot of people did. I always thought that was a bit mean-spirited. And so my perspective changed when I watched Diversity in Comics talk about the influence Liefeld had on the the genre. Scott McCloud helped me kind of appreciate Rob Liefeld in a new light by talking about how his line style was all about, you know, pumping up the drama and getting a lot of energy into the drawing. So
I really like oh sorry, like did you know he still is drawing and he's actually been perfecting his work?
Yeah.
Like, beautiful.
Definitely. So I never liked the people who were dumping on Liefeld, but so John, tell us a little bit about. I guess my perspective is I used to dislike Liefeld, and now I really respect and appreciate him. So could you tell us how Liefeld informed you as a young artist?
Okay. Well, first I'll say, you know, a lot of people felt the same way about Kirby when he was out. You know, they didn't necessarily appreciate him when he was young. They appreciated him a little bit more when he was older. I appreciated him, well, through the ages. Even now, I still appreciate him. Rob's been important to me, not just, you know, growing up, but he also gave me my first break. I did a book for him called, 2 books actually, called Nitrogen. And that was my first full comic book work. I'm very grateful. I was Rob's personal assistant, full disclosure. And I have a lot of respect for Rob. And I'm very happy the Deadpool movies are doing really well for him. And, you know, I think he's a great ambassador for comics, and potentially one of the people that I would have in the new Stan Lee type role of someone going out there. Like, I think it's a big misstep of Marvel not to right now dump a truckload of money on Rob's front lawn and hire him as an ambassador type, going out to schools, like public schools, and talking to people about comic books, and going to every major convention. They can fly him around the world. He's enthusiastic, and any conversation that anyone has ever had with Rob in person, they, regardless of how they feel about Rob, they will all tell you they leave excited about comic books. And he is a great salesman for this medium. And Marvel and or DC are really missing out by not utilizing him in this capacity as an ambassador for comics. So
yeah, they've got like 90 Deadpool books out. What wouldn't it be interesting to get people to hear the creator of Deadpool tell people like the brief story of what the genesis of that character was? So many people, they like the name Deadpool and the brand of Deadpool. You ought to have the guy who built the character out there chatting him up and letting people know a little bit about the history of the character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have an observation on your art style, John, and you can tell me whether you think I'm full of cred or not. So I see the influence of a Liefeld on your work, because you've got lines that are, you know, you've got a lot of lines. You've got lines that are really, you know, sharp and add, I don't know, some punch to your work. But maybe a difference I see between you and Liefeld is I notice in a lot of your art, you'll have like a big, wide expanse. Even in like some of the preview art for Graveyard Shift, you know, the space, and then your lines will be sort of contained into something really important. So I'm thinking of the explosion with the sharks in it, you know, big white, you know, circular explosion, and then lines surrounding that. In the preview image of one of the characters with blue eyes, looking really intense, you've got like a really pristine face, but then also some sharp lines adding shadow. So my observation on your work is you seem to have like a lot of contrast, you know, like bright white spaces, darker spaces where a lot of energy is contained. Does that sound like something you go for in your work, or talk about how you use your lines in your work?
Yeah, you know, I try to find certain areas to fill with details, and certain, you know, if you look at Sin City, you know, they have a very solid use of the black space and the white space. And so I think about that, but then when I get to areas where I want to emphasize, you know, you put extra details on that. And I mean, you can use it as like a blanket of detail that goes around and behind your character, where then your character, you would maybe take a little bit of the line work off of him so he pops out and doesn't get lost in the clutter. But it's really kind of like shades of gray, I guess. So, you know, when you're trying to build an image, it can go from, you know, maybe you would want your lighter areas up front, and then your gray tones in the middle, and then your blacks in the background. This is just trying to control depth. on some level. But on the rendering of the faces, it's about, you know, kind of like the Rob thing. You know, it's just trying to make the areas that are usually plain and boring look more interesting. And this goes to, you know, Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane. They make everything fun to look at with these renderings. Even Barry Windsor Smith, and I'm sure you can just name off, you know, 1,000 of these greats in the past. You know, there's some, you know, manga influence at times, and but even Rob and Todd were pulling from manga influences.
Yeah.
You know, where you'd have the big sliver panel with nothing but a big giant eyeball in there, and having the bombastic. Like I see a lot of the Rob art. So if you look at Rob art and you see, excuse me, you see a group of figures jumping in the page. You know, I almost see that like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon with the wire work. This kind of anti-gravity feel to the leaps, like everything is there's something natural, supernatural about it. You know, it's just something that happens because you don't actually see people jumping, you know, 50 feet in the air. So it's just the action and the bombasticness of the figures. And yeah, I mean, you can spot your blacks. Just like Frank Miller would, these heavy blacks that I just kind of dab into areas. That's what I'm thinking is, you know, how would Frank Miller handle these blacks? I also draw influence from Travis Charest, who I think pulls influences, well, from all over, but specifically like Mike Mignola in terms of how he uses his blacks, which tend to be solid and without much like little hits of white. So like if you looked at the Graveyard Shift pages, you know, there's the castle and it's a complete stark black and white, you know, well, it's in color, but it's there's no scribbly lines about it. These are just clean shapes. And then you look at the guy carrying the torch down the staircase and you see his one arm is completely in a solid shape of black. You know, and that's something like even Guillermo del Toro talks about Mignola's art it's like looking into the abyss. So, yeah, I mean, I want to have strong blacks and strong whites and use details where I can just to give a little extra texture. But yeah, at some point I want it to be opened up into a pure white area, not color wise, because I feel one of the mistakes of colorists is actually using color. Like if you have something that's gray and you're putting light onto it, then you should almost never go to a full white. What you should do is you should go, you know, you should move the value up as high as you want. But the only thing that should ever be like a pure white is like something that is actually truly white, like say, you know, your eyes or your teeth, you know, and maybe your teeth, or like a white sheet of paper. But any other time when you use a pure white on something, that's like just the brightest of the brightest of the brightest point. So you would want to you'd want to just move to the highest value of a skin tone or whatever color the lighting is on that person, and only use white in terms of the color when something is being like overexposed or, you know, some kind of value. But I see it all the time. You know, I love color, and, you know, white is just, it's too much for me unless it's being used, you know, to really emphasize something that is in nature and naturally white. So
I think of Rembrandt a lot as an example. So what I'm clicking with is Rembrandt might have a couple of speckles of white, you know, on the nose or the eyebrow, something that is, you know, most pronounced and catching the strongest highlights. And then everything else would be a warm yellow, but it would still feel very light based on context. The warm yellow looks very bright compared to the dark earthy browns. Do you have artists like that who you reference and say, okay, this artist really gets color and light and value, so I'll look at their work to get some, you know, color ideas for my own work?
Yeah, maybe if I was asked this like 20 years ago when I was full on coloring, maybe I would have had more people that I was could have named offhand. You know, I like the work of in general. You know, I can tell you if he does the tip of the white. But yeah, I do agree. Yeah. So if you have like a wet spot on top of skin, you know, you add that extra little hit of white. Yeah, it'll work just fine for like the tip of the nose or maybe a little shine on the cheek, but very slight, very carefully added. And but even then, it doesn't, you know, depending on the skin tone, you don't have to use that pure white. You just move it up to you know, the lightest value of the tone that you're using outside of white. But I like Peter's Steigerwald. I like the old, I think the studio used to be called Liquid something. They were pretty big in the 90s. There's a book called, I think it's called Eve. I'm going to look it up right now. Eve comic. This used to be a really awesome coloring studio, and I just love their stuff. Let's see.
Can't think of it right off the top of your head.
No, but look, and even like if you look at the work of Masamune Shiro, what they do on the Intron, I think it's the Intron Depot, the or even the poster book stuff. Some of it is very adult, but the use of colors and the computer effects that they use in there, I mean, that for me is next level. And the closest I've seen to that was a colorist named Matt Swift, who was a friend of mine. And he actually worked with Rob on a project called Armageddon Now. Sadly, he passed away in a car accident maybe 2 years ago. But he's one of the geniuses of coloring. And I think that, you know, there's a handful of people in this industry that never really had their chance to break free of the system like they could now. Like right now, I would be working on a project with Matt Swift if he was still alive, because he contributed so much to the art. Just by doing the colors stuff. I mean, like he showed me, you know, like Rob would send in these, you know, very loose. I mean, the figures would be pretty much there, but the backgrounds would be very loose. And then Matt would go in there and just deck the entire panel out. It was incredible, the amount of work that he put into it. And very beautiful, very good use of light. I did a review on a colorist specifically that did the book, The Red Star. This is on my YouTube channel if anyone wants to check it out. But I went pretty in depth into what his contribution was to that book, because he was not just coloring, but he was also compositing all the images, because Red Star was working in a very unconventional way of drawing things essentially on scrap paper, scanning it, sending it to the colorist, who would blow up the art. And normally you want to reduce the art, but this guy would blow up the art, and you can see all the pencil grain and everything in it. And everything in this book should not work, but that colorist composited everything, colored everything, I mean, expertly. And his name is, he goes by the name Snakebite.
Pretty much there's no part of the team that's unimportant for the finished product.
Oh yeah, I mean, even lettering. Look, you know, like I'm trying to find a letterer to do Graveyard Shift, and I'm gonna pick somebody, I think, Tuesday. But look, man, I mean, I'm looking high and wide for somebody that's really inspired, because lettering is not just typing. And what I find really piss poor in comic books is the letterers have just they're just phoning it in now. They type in the word balloons. They think they're doing something or contributing something. They're spending, you know, maybe a couple hours here, but I have not found many people with passion. And even the sound effects, which used to be done by hand, now it's a quick type of the keys, and you will see. You look at Marvel stuff, look at DC stuff, where they actually have budgets where they could afford to elevate these processes, and it is just paint by number sound effects, and you can tell they're all done by computer, because everything is completely, you know, one letter is completely identical to the next similar letter in terms of any kind of imperfection. It's like copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. Whereas if you're doing this by hand, you get an organic feel, which is why when I was doing Cable, maybe even back when I was doing Thunderbolts, I started just working in sound effects by hands. They were minor, but I felt like it helped. So like there was actually a page where one of the characters is inside this glass thing, and he's like gasping for air. So I just went in there and I'm like, gasp, you know, I just wrote it 100 times in there and tried to give it all a hand-drawn feel to it. And I think it pays off. It's an organic look. and it's becoming a lost art form now. And but some of my favorite lettering is Tom Orzechowski from the early Spawn comics. So
we had an interesting question from the live chat, and maybe I could get both of you guys, both of your perspective on this. So Samurai Raccoon asks, do you see these projects opening the doors for people outside ComicsGate who don't have publishers? So what's kind of interesting about that is I see lots of ComicsGate people, making comics, drawing, hinting at, what kind of projects they like to do. But there's also the, indie scene who may not be interested in ComicsGate or, neutral to it, kind of have a wait and see approach to it. So John, you've used the hashtag ComicsGate. And the thing I've always tried my personal perspective on ComicsGate, at least, is I look at it as a hashtag, not a movement. Like I never got summoned to a secret orientation meeting in the basement of some old building, where we do a lot of rituals to initiate you into ComicsGate. So I don't necessarily see it as, like a tightly defined group that way. But maybe one question is, can people who are involved in ComicsGate, what are we building towards? Like, so what I would say to Samurai Raccoon is that this very project, Graveyard Shift, that's a great example of it opening doors for people. It's opening a door for Nerd Wonder. It's going to open a door for your colorist and your letterer to some fresh work. Maybe whoever, Nerd Wonder or John, whoever you has a thought first. What opportunities do you see for people outside of ComicsGate for projects where projects like Graveyard Shift are gonna help just create opportunities for people?
I think I'm getting lost here on the.
What he's trying to ask is do you think that?
No. My audio.
Oh, are you losing me? Are you losing me because my mic's cutting out?
It might be my audio. I'm not sure. Can you guys hear me okay?
Sure. Do you want me to just give you like...
just because I'm losing audio, let me go ahead and spiel, because I might not be able to hear you guys. But my view on where this goes is, look, ComicsGate is only the beginning of what I see as a phoenix rising from the ash of the comic book industry. I hope that through our beginnings that we inspire people to go out, all types of freelancers, to leave the big two and to leave Image Comics and come over here and bring your fans with you. And let's do something where the artists and the writers and the creative people are able to do their own thing and make their own comics and do everything the way they want to do them without interference from anybody. And no, this is not just a ComicsGate thing. ComicsGate is just the beginning. We're going to inspire a lot of people to... You don't have to be a part of ComicsGate to do this. What I suggest everybody does, get a YouTube channel, build a rapport with your fans, and once you get to 50,000, or once you've built a good, strong network, then I think you'll be able to launch a project out here, and you will be able to do well for yourself and feed yourself without relying on any other channels or anything, and be successful. ComicsGate, I do see this as a community. The people I want to promote are people that do use the hashtag and are willing to put themselves on the line for us. These are the people that I want to work with. Look, nobody else, everyone's free to do what they want. This is what I choose to do. Nerd Wonder is a community member, and so I'm trying to reward, not just because she's hashtag ComicsGate, but she's a great talent that just by standing with us may never get a chance to work anywhere else. Yeah. And without a severe steering of the political climate. But no, anybody can do this, and I encourage everybody to get out here and do it. And look, if you want the help of ComicsGate, then you put that hashtag on there, and you're more than welcome to come on my channel and promote any project that you have. So long as you're with us, and so long as you're fighting with us against the what's happening in the mainstream industry and bad writing and bad art.
Now, this might be interesting because I might have a little bit of a different perspective than you, but I don't think I disagree with you fundamentally. So when you say you hope that ComicsGate becomes something bigger, over time, that it rises to something. I kind of look at that as I would ideally see the end goal of a ComicsGate to help there be a thriving industry outside the big two. And, there might be artists and writers who come on late to the scene. Like they start working, in 2020 and they come on and say, what is this ComicsGate stuff? I don't even know what all is going on. What all is going on here? But I would see a successful ComicsGate movement as creating, opportunities for them to have some oxygen, right? So like YouTubers like me, we're covering the indie scene. We're helping, these artists get noticed outside of, being bossed around by the big two. You're particularly interested in people who are willing to kind of like say they're with ComicsGate and kind of take some of the blacklisting or the blackballing that comes with that. And I guess my perspective would be is even if an artist doesn't use the ComicsGate hashtag, I kind of see the idea of what ComicsGate is as being bigger than even just the people who use it. So you could say, I'm not with ComicsGate, and I get that. But if you're not in like the SJW cabal, you're almost kind of de facto. I would almost kind of see you as de facto part related to what we're interested in doing, even if you're not comfortable with the hashtag entirely. But what's your thought? Either of you jump in. What's your thought on that take?
My thought is that simply everyone is allowed to promote and do and deal with people exactly how they want to. Look, I put my career on the line, and I'm looking to make sure that other people that are willing to do what I did have an avenue of being promoted. And that includes anyone who doesn't have a career yet. Look, if you're an up and coming indie person and you want to take a stand with us against these people, then like I said, I'm more than happy to promote you, have you on my channel. Otherwise, you'll be fair to get a retweet out of me, but I'm not going to put my time and my support into just anybody. I'm at war.
Because you feel like your career's been threatened based on your friend. It really just started as you're just being neutral or friendly towards ComicsGate. You weren't calling us a bunch of Nazis, and so because you feel like people went after you for that, you think it's particularly important that people, are. At least they're not dumping on you as like an alt-right Nazi type. Is that a fair way of putting it?
Who's not dumping on me as a?
I mean, like people you want to support and be cool with people who aren't dumping on you. I just mean generally, not any particular group.
I want to support people in terms of, look, like I said, if you're not ComicsGate and if your project looks good, you'll get a retweet from me. But in general, unless you are just pulling out, the creme de la creme of a project, you probably won't get much more than a retweet out of me. I'm looking for people that are ready to go to war. We are either going to fix the mainstream or we are going to kill it.
It's interesting because I definitely agree with the perspective that the mainstream comics industry is just disastrous. Umbrella Guys has done such a good job covering this and just making the point. What industry do you have is considered appropriate or professional? So I think I'm definitely with you, John, on like just being tired of the way things are. I guess I'm a little bit more of like a, I don't know, like a friendly ambassador. So if you kind of take the take that this is like a do or die moment for comics, and I really resonate with that it's good for artists to have a perspective and be willing to talk about their perspective and not join in with like the people screaming Nazi all the time. I think that's really important. But I'd also maybe kind of like my counter would be if you're an artist who's still, I don't know, on the fence about ComicsGate or hasn't taken a position on ComicsGate, for me that isn't a deal killer yet. Like I'd still have you on the channel, I'd still promote your book, and I would just hope that you'd recognize that what a lot of the people in ComicsGate are talking about, this sort of social justice vibe, I think that's going to very naturally bring a lot more people either into the movement or at least be friendly to what ComicsGate is, because even people who think they're neutral on ComicsGate or haven't taken a position on ComicsGate, if they're not in this sort of weird woke SJW left, they're going to very naturally find, oh, hey, people keep calling me problematic. People keep calling me sexist, racist, homophobe, transphobe, bigot, just because I'm drawing these stories. So I have a feeling that over time, you know, for years, people are going to continually find that, you know, this community of people are chill about things like that. We're not going to call you a homophobe, racist, sexist, bigot. So this is a great community to talk to your book about, talk to your art projects about. So I guess it's kind of interesting because I'm not going quite as far as you are, John, but I do really sympathize with your take on ComicsGate.
Yeah, well, my point of view is I'm coming from someone who grew up on Marvel comics, and I have a bit of a love for the local comic shop still. I know a lot of the indie scene is, you know, everything's going digital, and you know that's what they care about. There's a lot of people who work at comic book shops, thousands of people in the United States, and they're all going to be out of jobs, at least on the comic book end. You know, they can go into board games and maybe they can make it, but they're all going to be out of jobs. And by the time people get on board, if your dream is to be published in a comic book shop, it's going to be dead. It's going to die. There's going to be nothing left for anybody in terms of this industry as it is now. So if you are like me, then it's time to saddle up, and we're going to do some damage here in order to save it. So we have it now to where it is okay in mainstream comics. DC, a DC artist has sent to a former DC artist a picture of his anus.
Yeah.
This guy has not been fired immediately on the spot. This did not follow up with a letter of apology from the company to the fans because this went out on public social media. This has not been addressed in any way that anyone would have, if it had been sent to a woman, this guy would have been strung up. So I'm at war. I'm ready to fix this shit, or I'm ready to burn the house down. That's my point of view, and everybody else can do and promote and do whatever they want. This is what I'm doing. I'm going to do my part to save comic shops and make the product better, make the stories better, make the everything from top to bottom, the lettering, the coloring, the penciling, the storytelling, make everything better and save comics as we know it. Or we just go on and we do crowdfunding.
So wait. Let me parse that. So, you want to save the comic book industry, and so would you say that crowdfunding isn't a good long-term solution? You also want to see opportunities for like the major industries to be kind of reformed and providing more opportunities for artists like you guys.
You can fix Marvel Comics today.
I agree. Like the problem I think is that people are caught up in like a political. It's the thing of the day. The thing of the day is to be really woke. The thing of the day is to do like anti-Drumpf comics. And for people who at least want to make money, for people who want to succeed, that there's a potential that they'll look at this and say, boy, the woke comics aren't doing it. Maybe we need some fresh talent and some fresh perspectives in here. So
I don't think that the answer to solving the problem is to remove the left and put in the right. I am not overtly political. I think we need to stand for a couple of principles. Let's start with not sending butthole pictures out to your audience. Can everyone get behind that?
I think that's like something that should have been.
Yeah, let's make that a starting point. Let's make that a minimum goal.
They never cease to amaze me.
Only in 2018 is that even something that anyone would even think twice about.
When did standards get so low? It's like that episode of South Park, you know,
when far left extremists got in there and they're willing to protect their own. So let's stick with this, okay? So we can all agree that butthole pictures are not acceptable to be sent out from mainstream, someone working in the mainstream comics, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Can everyone get behind? There should not be any racism.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Do anyone consider that overtly political?
No.
Okay. Well, let's stick with that. How about no more racism coming from social media of anybody working for the big two? Specifically, Gabby Rivera's, who wrote America for Marvel, had overt anti-white racism on her Twitter feed. This was not hidden. It was not tried to be hidden. Sana Amanat thinks it's a funny idea to breed out white people from the United States of America. That's overt racism. Tom Brevoort thinks that it's racist for white people to wear dreadlocks. That's ridiculous. It's stupid. So if we can agree that we can fix these things by just taking out a couple of these morons, I think that's good for everybody, right? I mean, I don't want to see any attacks, any overt attacks to any other race or minority. But it is acceptable to have these in the public view in a mainstream company like Marvel Comics right now. And let's see, what else is there? Let's see, transphobia. Hey, let's not have transphobia. Okay, so let's not just make trans people into victims. Let's not make trans people into just heroes. Let's not make trans people into tokens. How about we treat them like characters and three-dimensional human beings? And how about we make great literature? Do you think trans people can get behind that?
Definitely. People don't like being condescended to.
Okay, so let's apply that to every race and every problem that's going on in this industry. And if within that, you will wrap your arms around the largest possible audience ever, and you could succeed once again. So this is all that has to happen. That's it. A little bit of decency on your social media. Don't tell the fans to fuck off, especially because of political beliefs, or you're going to have to go. So you do not have to be a Republican to work at Marvel, a future Marvel Comics, by far. You could be a Hillary supporter, you can be a Bernie supporter, and you could be a Trump supporter. And if an editor under my watch went onto a social media and said, make no mistake, regardless if you supported, or if you supported Trump, whether he wins or loses, we will remember who you are. That editor would have been fired. Yeah. I would have sent out a letter to every freelancer working for Marvel Comics, and I would have said, believe me, I am not going to tolerate any form of discrimination in this fucking company. That goes right down to Christina Harrington when she was using sexual discrimination in hiring practices at New York Comic Con, when she tweeted out, hey, everyone, come here for a portfolio review, unless you're a dude.
Yeah.
Parentheses, okay, dudes too, but we see so many of y'all. I'd say you are fucking fired. There is none of that shit going on here. There was a time, and it was about 5 years ago, where everything I'm saying right now makes perfect fucking sense.
Where it would transcend right and left divides. Yeah. You wouldn't say something like not having token characters is some kind of political statement. That'd be a generally accepted statement. No one would like having token characters. Being decent to people and wanting to make money in this industry, that wouldn't be a left or right dispute. That would be that would be a commonly held attitude. You'd like to see comics reach the point where we have shared standards of decency. Wanting to succeed in the comic industry and wanting to treat customers with respect isn't perceived as a political divide.
Specifically mainstream comics. In the independent comics, I really don't care what people do. You can burn your own house down. I don't care. But with mainstream, it's a commercial property. It's owned, specifically Marvel. It's owned by Disney. It's geared towards kids. So if you're going to inject any form of politics, it needs to be balanced. It needs to be well thought out. And you need to understand that children of conservatives read comics just like children of liberals. Yeah. So if you're going to go down any of these roads, you need to handle it very delicately, and not to the point of like what we had with Angela, Queen of Hell, where they edited out the direct dialogue to take you completely out of the story, to take a shit on men's right activists, and call them racist, and to chastise the audience for unsolicited opinions on Israel.
It's not even good propaganda. If they were good at making propaganda, they would have that balanced perspective, and then they'd make their perspective kind of like the stronger of the two, but they wouldn't dump on people they disagree with.
Yeah. There was honestly, I mean, Also, these stuff is like, a lot of it is targeted towards kids. And I'm like, I have yet to see a 5-year-old that like really heavily watches CNN like all of you mofos do.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, half of it is like stuff that only adults would get. And it's like stuff that even adults don't want to listen to. I don't care if you're into communism, okay? Nobody cares. Just go back to punching the bad guy because this is for 5-year-olds.
Nerd Wonder, I want to get your perspective on something. So John and I kind of went back and forth a bit on ComicsGate. And I remember when that Bleeding Cool article came out, and I thought that was completely atrocious. So John has been within the professional industry. He's been within the mainstream industry, and he's felt a brunt of that. I think because he was more high profile, that made him a bigger target for people. I've noticed in a lot of your interactions, Nerd Wonder, you're trying to, be direct, but it's hard. It would be so hard for anyone to hate you. Like someone will say ComicsGate is full of racist, bigot men who hate women, and you'll just come on and say, "Well, I'm a woman, and hugs. Let's have a friendly conversation about this thing." Could you tell us a little bit about your experience interacting with people on the topic of ComicsGate?
All right. Well, it started way back before ComicsGate and so forth, that I had a debate with somebody just online randomly, probably on Imager, and it suddenly hit me when I was yelling back and forth and we were just screaming profanities at each other. I'm like, what makes me better than anything that he's doing? He's shooting, profanities and acting like a dick, but I'm acting like a dick. And I think Matt and Trey Parker said it the best, that if you take a step back, no matter what your politics are, if you take a step back, all you people are just two sides screaming at each other. And that's all you are at the end. So I decided if I am to talk to my side, like, he probably feels the same way as I do, but in the opposite sense. So maybe I should start treating people like human. Yeah. And I will say, it was a debate on political stances, and I'm different than you guys on abortion and stuff, and it was a discussion on that. And I decided finally, I was like, okay, I'm gonna talk to him about it, and I apologized, and I tried to have a real conversation, and it didn't work out the way I wanted it to. But at the same, like we didn't really get to conversate, but at the same time, I felt better about it. I felt better because I was like, this is how I should talk to people. This is, if I am to be a person of that, I have to prove I am a good person. If they all think I'm scum, why act like scum? I have to prove I am a good person, so I will display that. And also because people want to be treated human. So when I do ComicsGate stuff, I want to treat everybody like a person. And we've all been in that situation before where people feel like they're being treated like junk and nobody wants to listen and it's just blind rage. So I kind of want to offer that olive branch at points. I do know sometimes it's futile. Sometimes it's a death sentence, and I have been warned about that. It's like, you shouldn't go for these people and so forth, but I still want to offer it. Maybe not to everyone, because I have seen the nightmares and the chaos, and I can tell when somebody is just trying to use me. It's pretty darn obvious, but I have seen a little bit of success, and that's what I want. I want people to actually understand, because a lot of us, I think, the SJWs are crazy, but I think a few of us have been SJWs before, and I feel like that is something that we have to remember. It's like, we could have been them. We could have been them if we're not offered the chance to change. And I feel like a lot of people can change. They just need to be told. Some of them are just into this because they were told we're scum of the earth. They don't know any better. I messed it. Stop it. Okay, there we go. Sorry. Or the eraser wasn't on. They've been told that we're scum of the earth. They don't know anything. They think we're all monster, horrific things, and maybe we should go talk to them. And so I want to extend that olive branch to people, and I like to be friendly because they think they're always talking about how scummy and monstrosity we are, and it's like, well, you can't really say that if I'm running up and I'm just offering hugs and like little picnic talks, and I'm always like the most optimistic thing. Also because that whole entire platform is the most toxic, annoying thing. Like, they always scream about toxicity. Well, I've seen Twitter. It is a nightmare cesspool at times. So I just like being the little bit of positivity that some people need in their lives, because oh my gosh, no wonder everybody's a little hellspawn on there, because it's so negative.
It definitely feels like 9 out of 10 times when I have a conversation, it doesn't go anywhere, or they're just inclined to think I'm an incel alt-right, you know, without knowing anything about me. But then if there's one conversation out of 10 where they'll listen to me and they'll kind of get where I'm coming from, it's sort of like that's a hopeful moment. Maybe it's not pointless for us to actually have conversations about these things.
Yeah, that's what I want. I want there to be a chance that if there is a chance out there that somebody can see what we are and who we are, and understand what we really are, I'll try and talk to people. I also just like talking to people. I like talking to people because I think we've all been in that situation where we believe something that wasn't true, and I want people to have that chance to change, and I want people to have a chance to actually sit down and talk to us and think, oh, we're not that bad. They may not even join us, but I've had people that are like, I don't really approve, but I get it now, and you guys aren't hellspawn monsters. Don't like a lot of your actions, don't really agree with you on some stuff, but I get it. You guys aren't bigots. So,
and to add to that, look, there's always room for redemption. You know, I would be hard pressed to not, you know, look, I mean, just like any kind of cult-like mentality, you get sucked into these black holes. But when it comes from people in the mainstream comics like Bill Sienkiewicz, look, I mean, these are voices that carry actual power, and fans may not understand this as much as people working in the industry do. But look, that voice is going to carry weight. It is going to damage all of us. It would put all of us out on the street, poor and penniless, if we had no other avenues, which crowdfunding has allowed for us. But look, even Bill Sienkiewicz can come back to reality. And but look, I mean, that's got to come with an apology. But there's something I want to address in the chat here real quick. And I've seen this argument before. I think it's completely ridiculous. And if Ash on Comics wants to say something after this, I'll be happy to reply to whatever his reply is. But look, he says, I like Malin a lot, but I feel the pros are verging closely on gatekeeping. So I've heard this gatekeeping nonsense before. We can't stop you. Can't stop you at all. I cannot stop you. Ethan cannot stop you. Richard cannot stop you. Marvel cannot stop you. No one can stop you from starting a YouTube channel, being entertaining, being engaging, building your audience, and eventually doing a crowdfund or something, whatever your passion is. No one can stop you. No one can stop you from doing anything. You want to use the hashtag ComicsGate? Use it. By all means, all powerful. Like I said, I will be happy to promote anyone who's coming out with an actual product using the hashtag ComicsGate. But the bottom line is, my YouTube channel is my house. I get to choose who walks in my door. That's not gatekeeping. That's keeping you out of my house. But the ComicsGate community, that's open to whoever wants it. I can't stop anyone. I can't stop that Umbrella guy or Yellow Flash or anybody else from promoting you. But the bottom line, and what I'm trying to explain to everybody is, this is all you. This is all in your hands. You can build your own YouTube channel. You can build your own audience, and you can do your own book. And you're damn right. When you built that for yourself, you get to choose who comes on your channel. Now, the only way you can consider something to be gatekeeping is if you feel you deserve to walk into somebody's house uninvited. So if you feel that you should be able to go on Ethan's channel or my channel or anybody else's channel without putting in the work of building up your own channel and your own fan base, then yeah, only in that case are we gatekeeping, because we get to choose who we want to talk to. Because look, if everyone felt they were entitled to be on our show, we would do nothing but promote other people 24/7 every day. So
you're getting at something that's been like kind of an undercurrent of ComicsGate for at least a couple months. And I've been trying to pay close attention to this, because in some ways I could, if anything could like break ComicsGate and make it not a movement, a successful movement anymore, it might be sort of like this general argument about, well, are people gatekeeping? And I like your defense of why you're you're not gatekeeping. I think that's important, and I would never accuse you of gatekeeping. I mean, this whole project, it shows how you're making opportunities for artists who aren't just you. So let me think. So maybe because this is that comment sort of speaking to the back and forth you and I had about ComicsGate, and maybe what's sort of unique from my perspective is from the beginning I never liked the hashtag ComicsGate, but I loved the people using the hashtag ComicsGate, and I fully supported what they were going for. And so I look at something like the success of a pro, who's coming out of the mainstream industry and succeeding with the book. I don't see that as robbing smaller creators or smaller YouTube channels of oxygen. I see that as providing an example of, well, okay, John Malin's had a successful Indiegogo campaign. Here's some ideas I could pull from to have my own successful Indiegogo campaign. And so what I would say to people who are, independent artists or writers who feel like they're not having enough opportunity to talk about their work or get opportunity to talk about their work, I'd agree. Yeah, different YouTube channels have different focuses. Someone with tens of thousands of subscribers, they can't reasonably have everyone on their show just as a pure matter of time constraint. It'd be physically impossible to live stream that much and talk with that many artists. But then there are people like me who, I'm building a YouTube channel and I love all kinds of artwork, and I am, eager and enthusiastic to talk with people about their work. So if you're someone who feels like there's oxygen, you're not getting enough oxygen to talk about your creative projects, don't look at it as, well, it's got to be, them or me. They'll get the attention or I'll get the attention. So that's bad. Look at it as YouTube's created like so much opportunity to talk about comic projects. Like it's endless. So if you can't get one YouTuber to talk to you about your project, talk to me. Hit me up on Twitter, guys, and show me what you're working on, and I'd be interested to hear what you're working on, because I want success, success, success. I don't want people fighting with each other for success in ComicsGate. I want, it's like when a parent has kids and the kid says, oh, if you have a new kid, then you won't love me as much. No, you don't divide your love amongst your kids. Having more kids multiplies your love. So I don't want people in ComicsGate fighting each other over saying, oh, well, if you succeed, then I can't succeed. I want us multiplying the success. I want John Malin succeeding. I want independent creators succeeding. I want people who are just not SJWs in comics. I want them succeeding. So I take sort of a positive, there's tons of pie to go around. Let's talk with each other. Let's show our work. Let's build our own channels, and let's network. We don't have to look at it as like you guys in ComicsGate versus you guys in ComicsGate.
Yes, because look, networking is key. When you say dissolve, or if ComicsGate fell apart, look, that hurts everybody, because ComicsGate is a network. It's a network of bunch of different YouTube channels, all trying to work together to bring attention to these problems in the industry and these projects that are coming up as a result. So all these smaller projects, look, you benefit from having hashtag ComicsGate in your project, because look, right away that gives you access to me, because I already told you, look, if you are putting your skin in the game, if you are going out there and fighting the good fight with us, you're invited. You can come on my channel. That's a benefit of using a hashtag ComicsGate on your project and being loud and proud about it. But a rising tide lifts all ships. When Jawbreakers does very well, because you have a platform like Diversing Comics out there, or when Cyberfrog or Red Rooster and all these others. Look, you may not have 60,000 subscribers, but between you, Marmaduke fan, maybe a handful of other people within this ComicsGate network, that's an audience you can pull from. Some of Marmaduke's fans are not your fans, vice versa. But through that network of somewhat like-minded individuals getting behind this hashtag ComicsGate, you've expanded your audience already through these networks. So it benefits everybody. When we go out there, when I'm out there raising hell with somebody, when Ethan's out there getting butthole pics, look, that hashtag brings attention to your project just like it does to ours. But look, I mean, Ethan, myself, Mitch, we're actual like people that work for Marvel and DC. So it's good to have us as part of ComicsGate, 100%, because this stink is not happening. The butthole pick is not happening because some rando with a channel is speaking out against these issues. We're in these companies. We've been there. We're bringing you inside perspective of what's going on in these companies. This helps everybody out by bringing mass attention to what is going on in our industry, and by proxy, your channels, your projects, and yeah.
And Ash on Comics wanted to clarify in the chat that he wasn't trying to accuse you directly of gatekeeping. And
I understand that. I understand that. It's just a completely dumb argument that I've heard over from about 2 months back. And like I said, look, the only way you can consider a gatekeeping thing going on here is if Ethan doesn't put you on his channel, or Diversity in Comics doesn't put you on their channel. But they don't have to. They never did. I've never been on Diversity in Comics channel one single time in my life, and I worked with the guy. So, I mean, that's just the way it is. It's his house. He can do whatever he wants with his channel. Do I wish that he was up there, like, promoting the shit out of Graveyard Shift every day, beating that drum like Jawbreaker? Hell yeah, dude. But it's not a slave system, you know? So I have my channel, and I can beat my drum as loud and as much as I want. And Ethan is gracious with his time, and it's completely understandable from my point of view that he only really wants to spend his time promoting ComicsGate affiliated projects. Because look, if you don't have skin in the game on this, you're not helping us. We're just helping you. And us is the ComicsGate community.
We're getting at a lot of some of the undercurrents about what's going on in ComicsGate, because I've had people say that they're worried that this dispute might be the end of it, because it has to be the consumers who, you know, are supporting these books and making these books a big success. And I'm trying. When I talk to people who have this general concern, it's never like just one thing. It's a few things they're worried about. So the problem is, like, it doesn't have like so-and-so did such and such, therefore I'm mad about that in particular. It's a more general attitude they have that, you know, they'll say like pros are making it hard for me to succeed. And the take I have is you can always succeed. It really is a networking problem. You have to kind of learn the subtleties of how to network, right? Because if you just say, here's my book, here's my book, here's my book, here's my book, people are going to get tired of that. But if you're a little, you know, willing to put yourself out there, you can say, hey, here's my book. You know, if people look at that and they say, hey, that's cool, they might have you on. And if they don't, that's okay. You keep trying. It really is. It's more about you having a can-do attitude of your own, rather than looking at any external person as part of your problem, I think.
It's being an independent creator. It's what it's always been as an independent creator. Nobody ever handed an independent creator anything. I worked in the independent market. I paid for my own book when I did Digital Waving Presents #1. It took me years to get into Marvel. So if you think that you just deserve whatever Ethan's time and attention because you came up with a project and that boom manifests destiny, no, it doesn't work like that. We all have to work and we all have to struggle. This is what it's always been for an artist trying to get into any kind of career. You have to dedicate yourself, sometimes for years, on your profession. Nothing is a given. Look, when it comes to fans, I'm a fan. I back these projects. I put my money out there too. I put $50 on Jawbreakers, $50 on Cyberfrog, probably 50 on Red Rooster, 80 on Lone Star. I put money on Jack Irons, yep. Ferryman. I'm like, everyone in this community is the fan. I happen to also be someone that invested decades of my life to hard work and perfecting my craft. So there is no quick jump start to hopping in and getting to the front of the line. Look at Nasser. Nasser is a great example. He's a young guy. He's written over 300 scripts, according to him. But look, man, people like him. He's engaging, and within, I don't know, a month, he's worked himself onto every live stream there is. He tried to get on mine. I didn't let him go on though. But he's hustling, and that's what you have to do. You have to get out there and hustle, just like I'm out there hustling, and Nasser's out there hustling. And Nasser did his first project, and he did, I think, I don't know, somewhere around 10 grand, 15 grand, something like that.
20. It was 20 grand. I'm sure he's still.
Okay, cool.
It's still known that yeah, he may be the lowest income that we've had, but it's still like people were telling him it's more than what Image would offer you.
Yeah.
In the end.
Yeah, and that's his first, whatever. Well, all of our first ComicsGate projects, maybe his first Indiegogo. I don't know. But look, he's going to build an audience, and over the years, by the time that kid's 30, as long as he still has that drive and passion, look, I mean, he's going to have it all. He's going to have everything he ever wants, but it's not handed to him overnight. He's worked in there. He's become a personality to the community. People like to talk to him. He's weird and kooky. So, he's made himself a part of this community. He's worked hard at it. He annoys all of us daily. And, but, outside the annoyance part, if you can be charismatic with people, like Nasser strangely is, then I mean, that's going to help you as well to get more time on something like Ethan, which can also help you build your own channels and whatnot, or get more time on my channel or Antonio Bryce's channel. These are all, you don't have to go right to the top, guys. There's plenty of people that have smaller channels that would be more than happy to talk to you. But like I said, my rule is you have to be a ComicsGate supporter for me to promote your project on my channel, as in let's me and you sit and have a conversation. So, it takes time.
We've been talking about comics for a while, and I'd like to kind of bring it back to Graveyard Shift, which people can support in the description below. I've got the link to the Indiegogo. So we've been watching Nerd Wonder draw. A while ago, I saw a comment in the chat saying it'd be nice if we could see some of John Malin's art. John, I don't know if you have screen share set up, but if Nerd Wonder, I'm really happy just letting you draw, because I'm just kind of mesmerized by it. So I'd encourage people to go to John Malin's Indiegogo and check out the art there. Unless John, if you have like any art you're working on behind the scenes, that would be cool to show. That wouldn't like spoil too much. That'd be really awesome to show too, if you have.
Yeah, I have it on my other computer though, and I'm trying to transfer all those files over to this computer.
All right.
So yeah, I don't have anything that I can actually on this computer that I could actually show.
That's
or I
fine.
would. I actually would like to throw a page on there, but that could take a while.
So if we can't see anything of John's, then I'm just perfectly content to just enjoy watching the process of your Nerd Wonder making this come to life. So
well, yeah. I'm trying to figure out some good inking right now for it. Like, this is just practice inking, I swear, because I feel it's a little bit dirty, so I want to see what kind of styles I can do for these kind of panels, kind of thing. So these aren't final.
Looks pretty good to me.
I've really appreciated getting to hear how you two have a back and forth as your Nerd Wonder is working on this comic project. And I've appreciated getting to hear that, there might be more of this in the future. Since I'm trying to let us focus on Graveyard Shift again. So, what is a juicy? We've been streaming for a while. We've got 40 watching now. So, for people who haven't looked too much into what Graveyard Shift is there something juicy you could tell us that's not going to give away? That's not going to let the cat out of the bag. What's a juicy thing you can tell us about why we should be excited about Graveyard Shift? And I'd like to hear from both of you on the parts you're working on.
What's something juicy to know? I mean, it's all the juicy bits that you don't want to tell anybody.
All right. So not the plot, but like, what's something like talk about, like, is the action gonna?
Here, I'll give you a character moment, or a bit of the character. So, Mark seems to think that a lot of this history is erased in some version. I disagree with Mark, but this is something we will have sorted out. But in the original history of these characters, the three, Mick Mayhew, Lilith Mayhew, and Vlad Blood, were all college friends. You know, Mick was the jock, and Vlad was the you know, the nerd, and Lilith was, you know, the good-looking nerd. But they were all, those two were working together and had a relationship, Vlad and Lilith. And through what are life just going on, they separate in time. And she ends up marrying Mick. And where we pick up, Mick has been turned into this, you know, hamburger type monster. So when he was murdered and put into the experiment was not perfected, and he kind of got halfway back to normal. But now he's kind of a zombie-ish kind of colossus, and he's probably going insane. And Vlad and Lilith, because a period of time passes from when this accident happens to when they come back with to come to the aid of Mick in his monster form. But during this period of time, Vlad and Lilith have rekindled their relationship, and now they have to deal with Mick possibly knowing what's going on or what's been going on, and he is a horribly disfigured monster. So what's going on with him, and how does he handle this? Because on some level he would understand that he's just disgusting. And you know, but it comes down to what kind of a person is Lilith. Can she look past that? And the answer might be no.
We had a great comment in the chat. Avid Comic Reader says, "I just backed Graveyard for the Your Nerd Wonder work." So Your Nerd Wonder just made you some money, John.
Yeah, no, I'm sure she's made plenty of money. I mean, I like her work. I find it only natural that other people are going to be drawn to, the stuff that she does. And I mean, look at it. I mean, that's just the cutest little back of Vlad's head, little baby Vlad, and he's wearing. I believe in this, he's wearing or using a stuffed toy as a beard.
Yep. Even swirly glasses as well for common anime trope thing. Thought that would be funny. So yeah, I really do enjoy doing these kind of little whimsical stuff, and I actually am looking through like manga and so forth for good references to make this stuff as diabetic as possible. So get ready, guys. I guess. Though there was an option I did consider for I wanted to help contribute something else to the Kickstarter at one point. And we talked about it. It's unknown if we'll go through with it because we don't know where to put it. But one stretch goal I did suggest was I would do a face reveal.
Yeah, maybe we'll make that the 150. That way you would do your face reveal and you would be recipient of 3 bonuses.
That actually sounds awesome. I am totally willing to get mauled for that.
Okay, so this is the second bit of potential breaking news. The first bit was you announced the stretch goal was that Your Nerd Wonder would be getting for the future stretch goals. Is that right, John?
Yeah, the 50,000 will be a bonus for Nerd Wonder.
Okay.
And at that point, she will be at a higher page rate, making more money than most people who work at Image Comics.
Excellent. And the potential breaking news is maybe a face reveal from Nerd Wonder if she agrees at a certain tier. And I think that would break the internet.
Yeah, we'll just call it. We'll say, I mean, she's already said she wants to do it. If she wants to do it, then at 150, we'll do a face reveal for Nerd Wonder. So I think it's a long shot, but we'll see.
That'd be neat.
I dig the swirly eyeglasses on the old guy, by the way.
Thank you. Swirly glasses is very iconic anime trope, as we all know. So I thought, we gotta put that.
Oh,
in.
Is it?
Yeah. Nerdy glasses tend to have like these big swirls in them.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, it's great. The looks like the paste on nose or the plastic nose.
Yes, that's what I was going for. the Groucho nose.
I'm just gonna like give my perspective on what I've appreciated about your Nerd Wonders style. When I first started to encounter your drawing, Nerd Wonder, I thought, wow, you could be doing. It reminds me of artists like not exactly the style, but Fred Hembeck used to do these cute cartoon versions of the Marvel characters, and they'd feature it in all the Marvel books. They'd give him his own book where he'd kind of do his cute take on the Marvel characters. And I've always thought your style would be a good fit for doing, variant covers of, cute versions of the superhero characters, or whole story bits where you do kind of a comedic take on the character. So I'm really happy John's given you an opportunity to do that with his cast of characters. And I definitely feel like this is going to be a good portfolio piece for other writers who want to do like a cute, family-friendly bit on their, if they have like edgier or more action adventure inspired characters. I definitely think that you're now like a good person to look at to do that kind of work.
Oh, thank you, Marmaduke. That means so much to me. I'm sorry. This is a lot. Like, and I've tried before. I have been commissioned in the past to do comics in the past, and they fell through due to my poor management, and work just got into the way and stuff. So, and this time I am heavily determined. This time nothing's going to stop me.
Yeah. Samurai Raccoon says the style looks like a cross between anime and early 1930s animation, or at least that's what it looks like to me. Any thoughts on whether kind of like 1930s animation has that informed you? Has that informed you much, Nerd Wonder?
No, and I've not really played a lot of Cuphead, but I do like all different animation styles. The thing is, my art style is heavily influenced by several different things, like Animaniacs and stuff like that. People do say there's a heavy Western influence, which it is, because I started implementing that more. But most of my art style, when it comes to a lot of characters, when definitely not in chibi form especially, I liked cartoon aspects of a series known as Kyuko-chan that was made by the creator Fooly Cooly in Japan, which is a manga. I hate the manga with an undone passion, but my God, I love the art. The art, and Okage Shadow King is another one, which is a video game there, but they have very round features that aren't seen in anime, and very lanky bodies, which just was something surreal and interesting to me, and I had fun designing stuff like that.
I really personally identify with having like a love-hate relationship with something, where I love aspects of something, but I hate other aaspects of something. That's kind of my relationship with all of Dragon Ball Z, where I really—
oh my God, yes! All of it with the power-ups. It's just, like, I honor it, and I love parts of it, but at the same time, like, I hate you, but I love you. Why are you so stupid at times? I do get it. I do get it, because, like, I go back and watch that show. I watch the show. My brother-in-law watches it all the time. I have like a Funimation account. And I was actually this is a funny, weird, random story, but I had a Funimation account, and I was thinking about getting rid of it until I found out he was the one that was watching it constantly, because Dragon Ball Super started happening. And and at a previous job I worked at, I would be able to design while putting on my Netflix or my Funimation, and I suddenly noticed that it was saying, would you like to go back to the show you were watching? It was like episode 42 of Dragon Ball Z. Because I gave him my password. But yeah, it's a really good show. There's parts of it I don't like, but you gotta honor it. There's like a lot of artwork and so forth. Even in comics and stuff, like we were talking about, you don't like Rob Liefeld's old work, and I actually don't either. I didn't really get it. And when I got into, like, when I learned a little bit more about him, it was like all the rage to go and laugh at him and stuff. So I didn't get what was going on. But yeah, like, but at the same time, you got to understand that he was iconic. From what I've learned currently and so forth, it's like he was iconic. There's a reason people constantly picked him up, and it was because this was an art style that people loved in that era. And it's no matter whether you agree or not, that if it's proportionate or if it works well, it's like this is what amazed people. Scott actually, like you guys were talking about how they it was all influenced by Japanese, like a lot of Japanese art. Well, here's the thing. The guy that made Trigun was the biggest fan of Spawn of all time. Like the creator, he's just in love with. There's like a whole entire monologue from him, and he drew a comic page just based around me. He drew him in manga form, and he's like, I love him. That's where I get most of my ideas from.
Nerd Wonder, are you a fan of Sis Restrix is asking if you're a fan of Lupin the Third.
Lupin the Third. Oh man, that's old school. I do like it. Yeah, the lanky bodies and stuff. It's not like my favorite thing to watch, but I like the story and so forth. And yeah, the old school kind of style, and I like the hands. For some reason, I really do like the detail they put into the hands, so forth, and the faces. Earlier,
I saw an adorable comment. Rainbolt said, "Nerd Wonder is going to explode in a cloud of confetti." Save it for the face reveal.
I am secretly a cat.
Yeah, Nerd Wonder does human a lot better than most of us. So she's very likable and very nice person.
I really do try. I like befriending people and so forth. So yeah, I guess I got that out of the way, guys. If you wanna make connections. This may be hard, but you gotta befriend people. You gotta go out there. You gotta say hello, and people like it when you treat them like normal people. From what I gather, like it is great. Like a lot of people do like fans and so forth, but sometimes people just want to be treated like people. So yeah, just go out there, treat them like anybody else. Greet people, say hello. I've managed to befriend many people. And so forth. That's how I ended up wandering into the chair next to Malin. Was also probably because Tim told me that I could.
Yeah, she kind of worked her way in there. I was sitting there, and she was outside the booth, and then before too long, she was inside the booth. And I was like, well, I guess I can put her to work.
Yeah, and he did. He was the one that suggested, he was like, hey, nerd, you're here at the con. Why don't you go sell some of your art while you're here?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And actually, there's a little tidbit too. A little girl came up and asked me to draw her character for her, which was like this little vampire one, and it became this big to do. But anyways, I did one, and then I asked Nerd Wonder to do it for her because I knew Nerd Wonder had that cutesy style. So Nerd Wonder did this really great little vampire-looking character. I only because I lack most anime or manga references, but it almost say like the Adventure Time kind of type character, the vampire girl. I don't know if anyone watches it. Anyways, it ended up being this really fantastic version of this girl's character, and that was definitely a mental note that I was taking when we were at the convention. I was like, yeah, she's really, really good in person, on paper. And Nerd Wonder can go very far in whatever this industry is in the future, just by being a good spokesperson for the industry and being a super great talent.
Yeah, just the fact that being a friendly professional and then it working on Graveyard Shift, that's a bonus, because I buy books because I want to enjoy the story and enjoy the art. But when there's so much competing with each other, the behavior and the coolness of the people working on it is a big factor, because it kind of tells me, can I trust you to tell me a meaningful story? Well, if you have meaningful interactions with people online, that gives me a hint that you get people enough that you'll get people when you're telling a story too.
Yeah, I don't ever want to come off as I'm better than you. I know a lot of people like to act like I know everything. I like to go out there and announce I have no clue what's going on, but honestly, I just feel everybody needs to chill. That's how I like to go in. I'm like, hi, I may not have the answers, but I like you guys. That's about it. Let's go talk about shit we like. Like, that's all I want to do. I want to befriend people. I want to talk to people. I want to share my stories and my ideas and my art. but I also want to see other people's work too.
A Samurai Raccoon added me and said, I can attest to the befriending thing. And if I could just add to that from my perspective, I spent a few years just posting, my academic drawings from art school on the internet. And I'd get maybe like 50 people watching that. And then I make a YouTube channel that, film videos on my phone of me talking about manga. And it's unreal to me to have 900 people care about what I have to say, care enough to click subscribe and tune in to listen. So I would 100% agree. Some of the advice that's been given is get a YouTube channel, network with people. And if for some people, what you're doing isn't their style, then find some other people where what you're doing is more their style. I can 100% testify that I wish that I'd started a YouTube channel years ago, like a decade ago, because it's almost hard to compare, the difference between pre-YouTube and post-YouTube for how much interest I'm finding and being able to talk to people about my work. I think because people like to hear you talk about your perspective. It adds some humanness to the artwork you're doing.
Well, also you have an amazing perspective. I love listening to you talk. Like that's
Thank you.
Not everybody like can talk like you. Like dang, I go into it, but also because I went to art school as well, and so I studied art history like you have. So when you talk about this stuff, I'm like, oh my gosh, speak my language.
Oh boy. I found the movie that I talked about a while ago of like that feminist film that's all about murdering a man.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm watching it and I am so going to talk about it.
I am still going to make you play with me Katawa Shoujo because you're going to get to a part that I think everybody's going to want to get and see your reaction. Because I'm like, if this guy knows everything about Jordan Peterson and SJWs, he's going to love this one character, and I must show him.
Awesome. I think I've purchased a computer that I'm hoping will work better than a laptop for Let's Plays. But yeah. I think even like a little laptop, if it's like a visual novel, those seems to be a little easier on the laptop. So I think I'm really hoping to make this work. Yeah. I mean, you've got to focus on cranking out Graveyard Shift, but that is totally something I want to do.
Speaking of laptops right now, if you guys are worried about what kind of programs to use and so forth, I think me and Malin use Clip Studio. I use it because a boy, Zach, suggested it. He was like, it's on sale. It's phenomenal. It's got the inks and so forth. Before that, if you guys are worried about putting down money, I do suggest Metabang, which is completely free. They work by donations. It is a Japanese company, and I know they did some work with Shonen Jump. And this is actually a Windows 10 touchscreen is what I'm doing. So I have a pen, and it's a laptop that I use that I can actually use the screen. And I use my fingertips to grow the screen and shrink. And then I pull out my pen and I just ink stuff.
Sisrester Picks, I hope I pronounced that right, asks, is John Malin a fan of Pulp Fiction?
Oh, the movie? Yeah. Tarantino. I love the Tarantino movies. So the older stuff for sure. Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, Jackie Brown. I really enjoy it. I think he does really good shots. Great director, great writer. And I actually listened to, excuse me, because I have another channel which only has like, I don't know, 300, 400 subscribers. But on that channel is where I keep music that I listen to while I draw. And I also have some motivational stuff that I listen to. And one of the motivational things actually has some bits on it by Quentin Tarantino. So if anyone's interested, then, there's some good stuff on there. But it talks about, one thing he talks about specifically in there is, and this, I think this is good advice for any artist, but he said that getting out from where he was at, it was like running a marathon, and he was running with people that were slower than him, the people that he hung around with, his friends, his peers, where he was on top of the chain. And it's nice that he was on top of the chain, but he wasn't pushing himself anywhere. He was getting comfortable, and what he needed to do was to get out to where he wasn't the fastest. And even though you would lose every time, he used the metaphor of running a race or running a marathon. And he said, even though I would lose every time, my time would get better. And because of that, he was getting better. And it was encouraging growth again, to get away from, you know, the people that were kind of holding you back, or just not challenging you. You know, I think a good example for the ComicsGate community is an artist like Ethan Van Sciver, who does incredibly detailed work. He really delivers on what he's putting out there. And, you know, I think he's a good high bar for everybody to try and aim for, in terms of, you know, being a fantastic storyteller and illustrator. But yeah, if all you're doing is hanging out with people that you're better than they are, then you may not be encouraged to grow very much. But when you set your bar super high, yeah, you might not be Ethan Van Sciver for years. But, you know, you could be Ethan Van Sciver. And if not, then, you know, you'll eventually be whatever the best you that you can be. And but yeah, there's good stuff by Tarantino, motivational speaking, and about how he handled these projects. You can find it on my channel. But yeah, as an artist, completely respect for him.
Hey, if people have the attitude that they will, you know, put in their 10,000 hours and they'll make, you know, the story or the art project that's in their head a reality, that that's bigger than all of the, you know, back and forth on the internet, because the back and forth on the internet is kind of interesting in the here and now, but it's you creating your project that's going to have, you know, something that lasts beyond, you know, beyond the hot moment of the day. And yeah. I just encourage that. If you're in the chat and you have a creative project you're working on, that it's you who can make it happen. And there, even the financial success doesn't. Even that's not that important. What's important is that you're bringing your vision into the world. And Ray Bradbury's changed my life. He's talked about, you know, you can't write one good story. You've got to write 100 stories. And if you write 100 stories, the 100th one will probably be pretty good. And I take that same perspective on comics and art. Get rolling, and and something will start happening.
Yeah, that's completely true. So, you know, you have to put in the work, you have to put in the hours, and you know, you have to, above everything else, have patience. And you know, don't worry about ripping apart what ComicsGate is. This is going to be a tool that is going to be useful to you when you are ready. It may not be in the form that it's in now, but there will be a community out there that is going to be ready to embrace you, your property, and do everything you can in the meantime to build your own audience specific. And you know, again, it may take a while. You know, your first crowdfund may not be Jawbreaker's success, but give it time. Build up a reputation for delivering on time or early for any Kickstarter or Indiegogos that you do, and it'll all help you in the end. Invest 5 years into your channel, and I guarantee you're going to do okay.
Yep. All right. Wow, we've been going for almost 2 hours. So we've had a chance to talk about Graveyard Shift. We've gotten into some, you know, inside baseball on ComicsGate. We've got to succeed as an artist and writer and network. And you guys have gotten to give us your story of, you know, you two networking, meeting at cons, you know, observing each other at work. I'd like to give both of you a chance to, what's your elevator pitch for Graveyard Shift? So we got my boy Avid Comic Reader. He has supported the book. He's one of my patrons too. He's a real cool guy. What's your elevator pitch for Graveyard Shift?
Well, it's pretty much in the description and in the trailer, but it is the Universal monsters if they were the X-Men. It's sci-fi, horror, and superhero genres all mixed up together. And it's because of that mix that I would like to continue Graveyard Shift, you know, as long as it's being supported, you know, into the definitely the near future, maybe the far future. But I made an earlier mention about this ship that they have, and this ship allows them to travel anywhere in the galaxy. But because of that, we basically set up Star Trek type rules. So we can take these characters, we can run them into any other genre. I'd love to see them in like the Old West, or maybe run them into the future. But we can also use that ship to cross dimensions, where I could definitely see us doing crossovers with a book like Lone Star in the future, even Jawbreakers or Cyberfrog. And the Graveyard Shift is capable of going to any one of these other books, even though they're in completely standalone universes. So the opportunities that we set up with this genre mash makes it, you know, basically the perfect tool to tell any kind of story that we want to tell. We can have giant robots. We can do whatever we want at any time. But yeah, basically, plot wise, look, it's revenge and trying to save the world. So,
Nerd Wonder, what would be your elevator pitch to sell us on not just supporting Graveyard Shift, but supporting it to get your ashcan?
Okay. Well, from what I know, from what I've been told as well, Graveyard Shift is what got Malin into Marvel. And Malin is the artist for Jawbreaker. So that if you love Malin's work, and if you supported him, and you want to see what made Marvel see such great potential in him, you got to pick up this book. This is his original pitch. This is how he got into a large industry and came to join us, was this very own book. And of course, he's letting me take part in it. And if you guys like cutesy things and fun and whimsical, I am trying my best to give you something interesting and adorable. It's a complete different take from the original series that is going to be shown. This is, Ashcan's going to be a little cutesy wootsy thing, but I want to give it something that is comedic and interesting. And I am doing my best not to create it in any way Cal Arts. That is the main goal. No Cal Arts in this bitch.
Soy be gone.
Soy be gone. You are not going to be here. Nope, 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 nope.
Yeah, and to add, you know, this is also to support, you know, people like Nerd Wonder. And, you know, look, if we keep, if we're still able to keep making these further into the future, then we would have someone, you know, preferably Nerd Wonder, stay on. So this can be future employment for her as well. And, you know, we keep adding on to these ashcans. So, you know, the next one would be another 16 pages. So then we have whatever that is, 32. And then we add another 16 page for another crowdfund. And eventually we'll have something that'll be a full volume of Nerd Wonder, Graveyard Shift, little, whatever, Teen Titan Go-ish comedies.
What better than Teen Titans Go?
Or original Teen Titans.
Yeah, original Teen Titans, because I ain't going to give you guys terrible stuff to look at. Don't worry. I like you guys so much.
I've come to respect Teen Titans Go, despite my initial hatred of it. Because
yeah, see, look, you know, my manga and anime, you look, my anime is much more Ninja Scroll. So,
good.
yeah, so what they're doing in, you know, the kitty stuff, you know, that's just my easiest reference to pull from. So
that's fun. I I watch a ton of anime, so it's a lot of old stuff, new stuff, cute stuff, dark stuff. Like, I like Cheese Sweet Home as the cute stuff, but for dark stuff, I love everything else. I loved Hellsing. Hellsing is one of my favorite series, so yeah. A little bit of everything. Don't worry, I'm not a Cal Arts crazy. I have to keep saying that. Because, like, you know those Cal Art kids, they're all like, I'm so into anime! And it's like, well, what kind of anime? I'm really into Sailor Moon. Did you watch anything aside from season 1?
Someone recommends Miyazaki movies for John Malin. And I don't know how familiar you are with those, but I would, yeah, even if someone's not like a weeb, Miyazaki is just sort of the kind of artist who's transcended like the East-West paradigms. I've been thinking about Miyazaki just as I've been, you know, reading all kinds of books based on how much he tells people purely based on the way the character looks, like Spirited Away. You know everything about the character Chio, think it's Chihiro in Spirited Away, based on her facial expressions and her body language. And that creates an entire character you can resonate with. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I've listened to some of his storytelling approaches where he's trying to think these things out like a child would, much like in Spirited Away where they cross the bridge, and I think it was you need to hold your breath while you cross the bridge or something along those lines.
Yeah,
and these are just something that kind of like I don't know, maybe it's just a Western thing, like when you're a kid and the floor is lava and you got to jump from your couch to your couch. So something that everybody can kind of really dig into. But yeah, the Miyazaki films, Howl's Moving Castle is probably one of my favorite, and Spirited Away is definitely up there. Princess Mononoke. When I watch a Miyazaki film, it makes me think of this expression I heard in filmmaking, which is, I think it's the wind between the trees, and that's what kind of makes a film, where it isn't just the shot of the person talking or an action happening, so much as you cutting to being able to see something blowing through the wind, and just kind of like, here's a moment of quiet serenity type deal. And that's what I get with the Miyazaki films. It really lets you sit and just kind of enjoy what's happening on the screen, and it still has time for that, just these kind of subtle moments. I think they also say a lot about, like he's a big inspiration for modern Disney animators, because he kind of does a little bit of a throwback to the old school Disney. But yeah, he's a real master. And, those films, I have them on DVD. I enjoy them a whole heck of a lot. If no one's seen Howl's Moving Castle, I would say start there and then go to probably Spirited Away.
I'm actually not the biggest fan of him, but yeah, I never liked Spirited Away. I mean, I'm gonna be honest.
Fired.
Really?
Fired.
I loved Howl's Moving Castle. I loved Nausicaa. I liked Totoro. I liked Ponyo. And but never Spirited Away. I could not get into it. Me and my brother, we watched it together and we were like, eh. I mean, that was just us though. Like, it's beautiful though, and the actions and so forth. Like, I love the reactions of the kid into it. Like, Chihiro has such a realistic reaction to everything, because a child that, like, her parents are now like pigs and stuff and she's abandoned into this world, her reactions are very much like what you would think a kid would be like her crying in the middle of something because she misses her parents and she's scared of everything and she's like just thinking it's got to be a dream, right? But yeah, I don't really care for the movie, but I like all the other stuff. Nausicaa I really do like. They had that, like, I liked it more than Princess Mononoke. I really did. Like, people are always like, a great strong female role is Princess Mononoke. I'm like, oh, you mean the bitch that kept getting herself pimp smacked everywhere? And I'm always laughing. I'm sorry. I like to be a dick, but yeah, I mean, Nausicaa is much older, but he also made it in manga form. He said he would never do another manga again because it took forever, but It's all watercolor and it's gorgeous. My school used to carry it. My high school in the library would carry it because they were really trying to get kids to read. So yeah.
I've really got to dig into what he did in the manga for Nausicaa sometime, because it's almost like I've never quite seen someone draw a manga quite the way Miyazaki does. I think it was because he was trending and he was just an artist. He was looking at all kinds of references, and so it's not quite the weeb style, it's not quite the Western style. It's his style.
Yeah, which he's very into making girls and people look human. Like, that was the thing. He's not into making them look overly cute or like with blue hair. He's very against that. He's very into, I want to make my people look like real people you can meet. And that's like his whole entire thing. One of my favorites is a movie he did not make. He gave it to his successor to make, which was The Cat Returns. And I really like it.
I've got to just sit down and watch all of those eventually, because I feel like there's a lot of cream in there for artists to look at to get.
Oh yeah, like everything is beautiful. Like even if you don't like the story, holy ever loving my god. Dude, somebody was talking about that in one movie, I don't know which one it is, but you suddenly realize that they animated the glints in the glasses, like everything's blown up. And even when they lift the glasses, that glare moves around. Like that glimmer of growth, like a magnifying glass. It's like, oh my god.
We've been going for 2 hours, so I wanted to make sure that both of you had an opportunity to touch on any big topics you wanted to touch on, and maybe hear some like any like last questions from the chat too. So, John, is there anything important about Graveyard Shift you'd like to touch on with people?
No, I think I pretty much said about anything that I can really say about the project. You know, other than it'll be a nostalgic trip for people. Like I said, it's all about the homages. There'll be things if you grew up in the 90s or just into sci-fi and horror, you know, there's going to be little things that are ringing your bell throughout it. You'll say, oh, okay, well, they were definitely watching this show back then. So, yeah. You know, we make it pretty obvious. Kind of like, you know, Tarantino, you know, for people that are film buffs, they might find things in Tarantino movies and they're like, ah, he must have been watching this. So, yeah, I mean, it's meant to be more or less turn your brain off, enjoy this origin story. And, you know, again, provided everybody responds well to it, we'll expand upon it and take it out to, you know, as far as we can to other types of genres and other adventures. And we'll keep adding in monsters. Oh, someone in the thing did ask, and I get asked this all the time, if there's a werewolf. That's a maybe. But I will say that in the original Graveyard Shift pitch, because Mark kind of goes for the goof and I kind of go for the more serious stuff. In the original Graveyard Shift pitch, there was a werewolf. He was on the team, but Mark had him like holding his head outside of a window with his tongue wagging, and he named him Fido. And Mark denies that he named this thing Fido, but I guarantee it was Fido. And I said no. So
it wasn't Fido, it was Spot.
Oh, was it?
No, I was a part of that.
Yeah. If it wasn't the most common, it was the second common, or vice versa.
I was just joking about that. Yeah.
It was just a terrible name, and I didn't want it to lean that corny. So I mean, we keep a little bit of the cheese in there. I mean, the main guy is named Vladimir Blood. I mean, what are the chances he's going to be a vampire in his lifetime? 100%. So. You know, I mean, you know, but some of that is just kind of, you know, to me, I just say, well, that's kind of the comic book fun stuff that's kind of, you know, gets lost sometimes. So, you know, you know, we're not trying to completely shake, you know, the world with everything we're doing here. We want people to enjoy it and have fun with it.
Nerd Wonder, anything you want to have people watching to have as a takeaway?
Well, this is going to be a really fun book. Both versions are going to be amazing, and I am trying to include as many Easter eggs as I can. I'm going to try and compete with Timothy Lim on this one and put a lot of you guys in it. Like, that is a goal I do want to do.
Nice. I love Easter eggs. It adds a little, you know, it adds some YouTube legs to it, because then people are going to go hunting for that kind of stuff and spotting that kind of stuff.
It is so much fun. Like, I remember I sat down with Timothy Lim and he told me every single Easter egg in Black Ops after, like, we were just chilling there. And he's like, how many did you find? And I was like, I think I found 16. And he then pointed to me every single one that we all missed.
Nice.
So good.
Fantastic. Well, we've been going for 2 hours, and I feel like we've had a chance to touch on everything important. So Graveyard Shift, the link to it for the Indiegogo campaign is in the description below. If you can afford to support it at the $50 tier or higher, please do so, because that's the only way you can get your Nerd Wonders ashcan edition, a little bonus comic that'll be included with it. And someone mentioned it being signed. Will they be signed by both of you at a certain tier?
The Graveyard Shift is going to be signed. The ashcan is not, so you'll have to find Nerd Wonder at a local convention near you, which is good because that will help bring people to her. and hopefully at that time she'll be having prints to sell and whatever else. So it's a good, just like Jawbreakers. I'm not involved in signing it, but that will be a bonus for me, is that people will be tracking me down for that. If I do many more conventions, which is probably not likely. I'll do a handful over the next couple of years, but I don't have a whole lot of plans for convention.
All right. Well, hopefully I can catch you at one of them before you. Hopefully just take a break and start cranking out lots more comic work, I'm hoping.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, I want to thank both of you for coming on the show today. I am really stoked for Graveyard Shift, and just want to let you guys know that you're welcome back on the #1 Marmaduke fan show anytime, whether or not you want to talk about an upcoming comic project or an ongoing comic project. You've both been great guests, and we've talked about a lot of neat artistic stuff. So I want to thank everyone in the chat for asking us some great questions, and we've had a great chance to have a back and forth on a few things. So this has been wonderful. So I'll let both of you guys say your goodbyes.
Thanks everyone. You can find me on Twitter at John Malin. I also have a channel on YouTube, which you just look John Malin. It's the one with like 1,400 subscribers. But if you're interested in what I talked about earlier, the music or the motivational stuff, then it's the one with 400 subscribers. And I would like to thank, I think it was Ash on Comics or Ash of Comics.
Sounds right.
Who brought up that comment, and no hard feelings. Yeah, Ash on Comics, no hard feelings at all. It's just something that any passion I have for that is not geared to you. It's, because I've seen it go through the community, and I just wanted that to be addressed, because I know it's it's in the conversation, and I want people to understand. So, but yeah, thank you very much, Marmaduke fan. Appreciate you having me on here, and Nerd Wonder.
And you're Nerd Wonder. You're Nerd Wonder on Twitter and the Nerd Wonder on YouTube, right?
Yes. Somebody else had Nerd Wonder on both. So I went with this.
Hey, it adds some variety. It adds some variety.
It's not hard to find though, which is good.
All right. Well, someone ages ago mentioned that they were really interested in Nerd Wonder's Photoshop documents. So I'll just add that I've really appreciated getting to see the behind the scenes aspect to the art. And anytime you guys share something like that, I'm going to be all over sharing that. So I just highly encourage you to keep sharing whatever behind the scenes art you think you can share, because that is such a fascinating aspect to what we're getting to discover.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you both. Chat, you've been great. I think we're going to call it here. We'll let your Nerd Wonder do her little signature sign off. And I am so looking forward to Graveyard Shift and supporting both of you. So with that, I love you guys. I love my guests, and we will catch you soon.
See you guys.
Bye.